Hello, I'm Sarah Hyams, and today we're here to do a green man garland or headdress and mask making session. And this is aimed for anyone age 5 and up. And ideally you could pick a spot in nature where you could do this to really get the full benefits. And you will need, I would say, about 20 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how wild and exploratory you go. But in 10 to 20 minutes, you'll be able to have a basic headdress or mask. The materials you're going to need are very simple. You're just going to need a pair of scissors and some string. So that's all you need. So hopefully you should have both of those at home. And then the rest is just found in nature. So I've got a basket of goodies of different greenery that I have collected. Grasses, flowers, leaves. You will find through experimentation that some plants lend themselves to this more than others. I haven't got ferns with me today, but for the headdresses, ferns are really good. So you could try getting some ferns, and also the thing with ferns is they can kind of look like feathers as well, so you might like to bring them into the mix. So let's just go with a few principles that we'll be working with today. So I've got some basic bases for a mask, first of all. So this is a very crazy looking, does look a bit crazy, green man mask, and I've made this with grass, and these are basically 2 circles tied together. Now that's the base. From here you can neaten up the ends if you don't like the wild edges. I like the wild edges, so that's your choice. And then you can also bring in your extra bits and pieces like your flowers to add further decoration. So that's a base of a mask. And here is a base of a garland. So this is the garland. I've decorated one side with flowers and one side I've left plain, just to show the difference. And then that's my lovely garland. And if you really wanted to go wild, you could actually wear both at the same time. So what we'll do is we'll just start off with the idea of creating a circle with our plants. So things like flowers aren't the best thing to make the base with. We want to make the base with either anything that's fairly flexible, so things like ivy can be very good, and grass is also very good, and as I mentioned, ferns are good. Anything that's fairly long and bendy. So with, for example, the mask, I got my grasses together, and I like to, this is the grass I'm using, I like to put if I'm going to make a long circle, I actually just elongate the grasses and then I tie them with some string. It's good to have plenty of string available to hand so you can just get on a roll. If you've got little fingers, you might need someone to help you with the tying. And then we just tie a knot there. Okay. Good. And then from here, because this grass is actually fairly long, I might be able to use that for a headpiece, or I might decide I want it smaller for my mask, which is going to go on my eyes. If I'm going to go smaller, then I just make the circle smaller, make sure it's going to fit over my eye, and then I've done that first tie, and then I just wrap the grass around. And as I mentioned, I quite like the crazy kind of loose ends being left, but that's your own artistic choice. You can trim them off with scissors, you can also later on tie some flowers on to decorate it even further. So I've just done a lot of wrapping around. So I basically have one circle. And then I'm just going to repeat on the other side, the other circle, until I have two circles, which I then tie together with some string. And then I get some string on either side here and then wrap it around my head so that I can place it like this and I have my mask. Then I might wish to add some flowers. So I have here I have some bluebells. You'll find with a lot of flower stalks they will break quite easily, so these won't tend to be so successful at being wrapped around. They're better off just being tied straight to the mask itself or to the object. So you can get your flowers and just decorate it as you see fit. And I'm excited to see what you actually produce, because every plant will give you a different effect. But as I said, for the base, you really want some kind of plant, whether it's a grass or kind of a vine or maybe the ferns, something that's fairly flexible so you can make that circle shape. So here with this mask, you can see I'm beginning to decorate that with flowers. So that's how you can do that. And then moving quickly on to the garland, which I'll just leave on my head for the rest of this. I'm going to use, if I get a bunch of these are, I'm not actually sure what the flower is, but they're flexible, leafy, and they do have a little purple flower. So with these, I'm just going to grab a good handful, and then I've got these two bunches, and I'm going to put the stalky ends together, and that's where I'm going to tie that one. And this one depends on what foliage you're using, what plants you're using. But for this one, I actually needed 3 bunches that I tied together. I need some more strings, that's not quite enough. So, and before you make, you can really start thinking about what kind of creation do you want to be? Do you want to look kind of like a green monster? Do you want to look like a fairy queen? Do you want to look like, be like super camouflaged? What's the kind of look you're trying to create? And then once you get making, magic will start happening and it will kind of become its own thing. So you might have a plan, it might change a little bit once you make it, but it's good to have some kind of idea. So I've done that, and I'm going to add one more bunch here, and then eventually with this I will then be able to make this into a circle, and it will be like a crown. And as I mentioned, if you're using something like ferns, you can actually use those upright in a way that you would see a feather headdress. You can actually make the ferns work a bit like feathers, which is pretty cool. So I've got that, and now I'm going to make that larger circle. And I will just try that on for size and just see about where I need to bend it, which is about here for my head. And again, I just wrap those leaves round, and then just for extra strength, I'll get a little bit more string and tie that. So then you're ending up with the base of a garland that you can then add all your beautiful flowers or your grasses. Grasses also, instead of being used as a base, they can actually be used as a decoration. So, that's just come undone. So with grasses, you can actually cut them so they look like bangs. You can make a kind of Cleopatra wig. You can do all sorts of fun things with grasses. They could be like tassels hanging down. So grasses are kind of flexible in the way that they can be used both as a base for the headdress or mask, but they can also be used in a decorative way as well. I'm really focusing on getting this done. So that now is our base. And as I described, we then add the flowers to it and just embellish it and get it bigger and more exciting. So that's the end of our demo. I hope that you have fun with this. As I said, if you can choose a beautiful spot in nature to go with just a basket and a pair of scissors and some string, you could have a ball. You could make a grass skirt, you could make a belt, you could make bracelets, you could really go to town, a necklace out of nature. So I hope you have fun, and there will be a link below which will have all the materials and information you need. Thank you very much.